This is Bill Peschel, and welcome to Mechanicsburg Mystery Presents, a conversation with Korina Moss. Korina is the author of her first book in her cheese shop mystery, Cheddar Off Dead, a story set in a small town in the Sonoma Valley. Korina loves creating quirky characters who live in idyllic small towns. She grew up on a healthy dose of Nancy Drew and Agatha Christie novels, which developed her passion for solving mysteries and eventually writing her own. And she lives in a small New England town with its own share of quirky characters. She's a member of Sisters in Crime and the Mystery Writers of America, and she blogs at the website Writers Who Kill. Her second book in the series, Gone for Gouda, is going to be coming out in September 22. But for now, we're going to be talking about Cheddar Off Dead. Korina, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, so am I. Absolutely. I wanted to note first off that you've already done in your first book what I've seen a lot of authors eventually do, and that's killing off a critic.
Yes. Nobody likes a critic.
Absolutely not. In fact, I've starred in one as the dead body after I slagged an unfortunate poor woman's book, and she asked if, can I kill you in my next book? And I said, well, I guess you kind of deserve it.
That's hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. So your series is set in a small town of Yarrow Glen in the Sonoma Valley. Is this a place, are you familiar with the Sonoma Valley?
Not at all. Unfortunately. I know. I'd love to say yes. I've been there. I've traveled extensively, but never to Northern California. It was a place that has a cheese trail, and I like to find locations that are a little unexpected. And when people think of the Sonoma Valley, they think wine country, but it also has a lot of dairy farms. And it also, if you live near there, you are familiar that it's known for its cheese. There is, in fact, a very famous cheese shop and cheese factory there as well. And so I kind of wanted to, highlight that there as well, and cheese and wine go together. So I chose that, and I did a lot of research. And in fact, one of the readers, he's reviews a lot of cozy mysteries, he grew up in the Sonoma Valley, so I was a little bit nervous. I mean, it is a fictional town, but still it's in that area, and I do like to get the details right. And I was very happy that he said that he liked it even more because it reminded him of where he grew up. So that made me feel very good that I did my research well.
And that's what writers do. We use our imaginations. I
Right.
wrote a series of Sherlock Holmes short stories, and I know nothing about Victorian Britain, but that doesn't stop us from writing about it anyway, right?
Correct. Yes.
I did note that you got the cheeses. You go into quite a bit of depth through Willa Bauer, the owner of the store, about cheeses, because you talk about aged goat Gouda that smells like peanut butter ice cream, or there's one that you have, I cannot pronounce it. It's Kaltbach le Cremeux. Is that
yes, very good. Better than me. I have an audiobook version is also out of this, and Erin Moon of Mooney Books, she's the narrator of it, and she is so good pronouncing everything. I mean, much better than I could, honestly. So anybody who wants to talk cheese, I am not the judge of how to pronounce anything or doing the correct pronunciation. I just enjoy eating it. So
yeah, that's pretty much what I do, because
right.
we're doing reviews of Agatha Christie movies, and we're having cheese plates with them. And I do get, on this particular fan site on Facebook, I get about half the comments are about the cheese rather than about the movie. So we're doing something right.
Yes.
Now, your book also has a couple of recipes in the back, and I'm really looking forward to trying the oh boy, here we go, the croquet monsieur with Gruyere.
Very good. Wow. Yes.
Well, it's more a matter of the accent. I've been watching all the Poirots, so at least I can do it with a Belgian accent.
That's right.
Oh. So where did you find the recipes? Did you try them too?
Yeah. Yes. I found several. Well, I had Willa making some things throughout the book, and so people could get involved with the cheese and really enjoy it, and we could see how it's used in different ways. And so as she was doing that, I had to do a little research. And while she's making it, I kind of gloss over things. And then I finished the book. And then my editor, after reading it, said, well, why don't we include some of these recipes? Wouldn't that be fun? And I said, well, yes, but I didn't really, make them at home. I just kind of researched some of them. So then I had to go back. And so I didn't want to take any one person's recipe. I didn't think that was fair. So I, always just had a kind of an amalgamation of a few and what I thought might be good. And then I would try them. And I wanted them to be simple so that anybody could make them, rather than, because I'm not a gourmet cook by any means. And so I figured, okay, if I could make it, then anybody can make it. So I always, and throughout my other books too, I always choose the most simple recipes
Right.
for people, but maybe something new that they haven't tried.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into the character, your lead character of Willa Bauer, and what she's like, because obviously she relates to cheese on a very personal level. She's very, it's like it's a part of her fascination and love for cheese.
Absolutely. Yes. She, it's been the one constant there for her when other things in her life have tragically left her. And she's always used it to, for comfort, for her passion, for it's invigorated her. It's done a lot of things for her. And so I kind of, throughout the book, I use that as many things, her cheese, and she uses it to connect with people too. And because I think she's most comfortable with cheese. She grew up on a dairy farm, and I think that's just what she knows and what she's comfortable with.
That's a nice insight. I hadn't thought about that. She can relate to people with cheese, and also as kind of a comfort. She can serve people cheese and they can feel better, because who doesn't love cheese?
Exactly. And she also, yeah, it's a way for her. That's why she says that she never wants it to be intimidating for anybody, because it's a way she feels like it's a connection with people. And so the last thing she would want is for people to feel too intimidated to try something new or come into her shop to try something.
Yeah. And as part of her backstory, she goes off to France and apprentices herself to a cheesemaker. Do I get that right?
That's right, to a woman who owns a cheese shop in France. And she wasn't planning on being a cheese person. She had, in fact, wanted to leave her dairy farming roots behind and not do anything. But she did, her family did have a small creamery where she would go to farmers markets and sell their cheese as a young teenager. And so, but she was still determined that that wasn't her life, and she was going to, leave and strike out on her own. But then when she went to France, she found herself most comfortable with a small town like she grew up in and in this cheese shop. And so, yes, she apprenticed herself, learned more about cheese, realized this was her true love, and then came back with the determination to be a cheesemonger and eventually have the dream of owning her own cheese shop, which is where the book starts, with her having just opened her own cheese shop.
Right. In the small town of Yarrow Glen, which is not I remember reading, it's more of a working class town. It's not really like a polished Sonoma Valley town that you'd see on like a Hallmark movie kind of thing.
That's correct. Yes, I kind of relate to that more. I grew up in more of a blue collar town in New York, and I now live in Connecticut, which for the most part is not blue collar, although I do live in dairy farm country around here. Actually, I live in next to Stearns Farm, which is a huge dairy farming and has been for decades. But so I kind of relate to that more, and I wanted to start because Willa is kind of an underdog, and I wanted her town to mirror that. I wanted the town to be an underdog, and as the series moves on, we see Willa blossom and we see the town blossom, and they're trying to get the tourists, attract the tourists that go to the other, more fancier vineyard towns that surround Yarrow Glen. Yarrow Glen's a little bit, off on its own. And so I just wanted to echo what she was going through with the town, and also kind of, even though it's not completely realistic, a lot of people ask, well, how could anybody afford to live there? How can, because California is crazy with the prices. So I just wanted to make her a little more relatable, and everybody who lives there. I mean, she lives in a little apartment above her shop, which many of the characters do there. They're her fellow business owners who also live in small apartments, most of them near their shops or above their shops. And so I just kind of wanted to make it more relatable where, okay, they're not all in $1 million homes, and, everything's not all fancy. So those are the reasons why I chose to make my fictional small town kind of a working class town.
hmm And you have a good cast of supporting characters too. I like the way they were varied, whether it's Mrs. Schultz, who was it Lucy Ricardo, kind of an older retired version of
Yes,
Lucy Ricardo.
correct.
The store clerk, the Archie, the clerk who's a teen and just kind of unformed yet, and Roman, who owns a meadery.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, I did try a mead not too long ago. We had some friends actually bring a bottle over that they had bought,
Did you
and
enjoy it?
yeah, I loved it. Absolutely. But I'm a beer person as well. So it's that's more along my lines too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the forming your characters, did any of them happen to be based on some of the traits of your neighbors, for example? You said you lived in a kind of a quirky small town. Is there anything you want to reveal without convicting yourself?
Actually, no, not any in particular. I mean, I do have some, I don't know, quirky in the nicest sense, neighbors here where I live, but not in particular. I chose them. They're probably kind of again, a conglomeration of people I know. I particularly wanted to do people of differing ages, and because I really like when characters are friends and relate to each other, and they're not all of the same age, because I think we've all had friends or mentors or anybody who is maybe of a different gender or a different age, and I think those can be very meaningful relationships, and I wanted people to see what was happening through the eyes of someone smack dab in her 60s, like Mrs. Schultz is, or a 19-year-old Archie, or Baz, who's the handyman who lives next door, or Roman, who's the meadery owner who just started his own business not long before Willa, and yet they're all starting out in their own way. Even though they're all at different stages of life, Mrs. Schultz is a widowed, retired drama teacher from high school. And so she didn't expect to be widowed in her retirement. And so she decided to go outside of her comfort zone and uh, uh, get this job at the cheese shop, just to kind of see what else was out there. And Archie starting out on his own, because he's supposed to know what he wants to do with his life at 19. Of course he doesn't. And so even Baz was expected to kind of join his family in their house building business, and kind of ventured out on his own, as is Willa. And Roman, as you find out too, has his own story. So they're all, even though they're at very different stages and different things in their life, they're all kind of starting out as well. And I kind of wanted to show that it doesn't matter what age, because with me, I wrote this book. I started it in my when I was 52, 54, 50. I don't know how old I'm, 52, I guess. And so I was starting out new doing this. So I think that's kind of a running theme.
It seems like from looking at your background, you'd always wanted to write, but it was only in the last few years you were finally able to devote yourself 100% to it. And
Correct.
what I found really interesting in researching your backstory, as if you were a fictional character, you did very well. You kind of followed the same pattern of you went from one line rejections from agents to requests for the manuscript, and you kept getting better as you went along until you were in. This is eminently readable, eminently publishable.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I say this as a book publisher, so I'm not trying to insult you. I enjoyed reading the book.
Yeah.
But you know, once you're in the business, it's like you can't just enjoy a book anymore. You have to go, how did this plot turn? Is this a good plot turn? Is this a good character? Okay.
I totally understand that. Even as an author, it's hard to read a book just as a reader anymore. You do look at it differently. So I can imagine as a book publisher, it's the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. So what was it a major step in getting to this point that helped along the way? That's
I think it was, I think the major thing was putting it first for the first time. I kind of always thought, well, other things took precedence. I was married. I have a special needs son. And so those things took precedence. And so I always was writing, but it was always, oh, wouldn't it be nice? So I'll do it in my spare time. And, perhaps other people can get published that way. But for me, and now knowing what I know now, I would have never been published that way. And what happened was, a turn of events. I turned 50, my 25-year marriage ended, and I was on my own for the first time. I had my son 50% of the time. And so I had a little time to myself to say, okay, now what do I want to do? And writing was always my dream. And I just never 100% fully pursued it. And so I said, well, I gave myself like a 5-year plan because my son was 12. He was going to be 18. I was going to have some kind of, I don't want to say financial stability, because we all know writing is not a stable financial endeavor. But I thought, you know what, I can always work. I always did. And so I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put 100% into this. And I knew that I didn't have total control, with the publishing business. I wanted to be traditionally published for sure. And so I just thought, I'll do my part. And if it works out, it works out. And so that's what I did. And in 2 years, I got an agent. And then 2 years later, this opportunity for Cheese Shop Mystery came along, and I began to write this series. But I think that only it feels very short, but let me tell you, that's only because I've been writing for 30 years before then. And perhaps it was here and there as far as trying to get published, but I learned a lot along the way. And I think it helped that I wasn't, I didn't, in my early years, we had no social media, we had no internet even. And so I had to rely on myself. For a while, I had a small critique group, but I wasn't getting all the feedback, or I didn't feel the immediacy of getting my work to the public the way many writers do today. And I think that really served me, because when the time came when I had to do tweaks, and it wasn't a straight path. I don't think it ever is for any writer. When I had to make tweaks and I knew things weren't working, I knew them a little quicker because of the things that I had gone through in the last 20 or 30 years. So it really wasn't, okay, I got an agent in 2 years. It was really a longer process, although it was not this particular book. It was another one that ended up not getting published, that got me my agent. And although it was more of, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm writing a manuscript. So it was one manuscript, one agent, then this series. I had a lot of things behind me that got me to that point.
It is to being an overnight success, you do have to have 10 or 20 years of work behind it.
I feel like you do. Yes.
Well, it's the evolution of a writer. And one of that stage is the ability to look at something or hear a critique of something and say, you're right. Because
absolutely,
I've had that happen where it's like, well, maybe I can get away with this. And they go, why is this like this? And I go, well, because I didn't write it as well as I knew I should have. So I guess maybe I better fix it. You think so, Bill?
But yeah, that's exactly it. You always know in the back of your mind when you have a good editor or beta reader or any of that, and they say something, you already said it to yourself, but and you told yourself that you could get away with it, or that maybe it's not so bad, and then they tell you, and you know immediately, oh, that's what I needed to do. So it is that balance between trusting yourself and not changing everything that every single person says, and knowing when to change it and when to listen to others. And that's why I only have one beta reader, and before I found her, with this series, I didn't have any. I just went on my own, because too many voices I don't think always serves you. And I
Mhm.
felt like I had that 20 years behind me where I didn't need to hear it from a lot of other people
Mm.
constantly about my work.
Yeah. So what do you think makes a good cozy mystery, at least to you? What do you enjoy about them?
I love the town, and the characters are the two things. And it's funny, because when I go into to writing them, the mystery comes first for me. That's what I plot out first. But the most important thing, and what I spend the most time on, are the characters and the town, because I have been a cozy mystery reader since the 90s. I think I was a cozy mystery reader before they were really labeled cozies, when they were just mysteries. I had gone through all the Agatha Christie books in the library, and I was looking for something like that. And then I started finding Diane Mott Davidson, and MC Beaton, and oh gosh, so many, I can't even think now of all of the ones that I kept going back to and binged at that time. And Sue Grafton, even though she's not really cozy, but that mystery, that type. And what I kept coming back for wasn't necessarily the mystery, because in each one, sometimes it was great, sometimes not so much, but it didn't almost, it mattered, but it not as much. As the reason I wanted to return to that series was because every time I did, I felt like I was coming to a town that I knew, that I was comfortable in. The characters were my friends. I wanted to be there. I wanted to spend time with them. And that's when I decided that cozy mystery was going to be what I was going to write. I made it my mission to say, I want others to really feel like that these are their friends that they want to see, that they can't wait to see again, and to read again. And kind of, I want them to sink into the book again and go, oh yeah, and just there's a feeling you get when you read a good series, and you want to continue to read it for many books. And that's what I try to achieve, and that's what's important to me as a reader.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that with the rereadability, because I'm a very big fan of the Ellery Queen books, and the Nero
Yes.
Wolfe in particular, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And it is that community and the characters and the place.
Mhm.
It's not like Los Angeles is Los Angeles. There's Raymond Chandler's Los Angeles. That's a
Right.
very different place.
Exactly. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why consciously I wanted my locale to be not stereotypical. I wanted it to be something where people hear Sonoma Valley and they kind of have this idea, but then also to kind of bring it into a smaller, this is Yarrow Glen, this is my place, and it's a little different than what you might find. And so that's exactly, you're right. That's what I was going for, because I know that's what I feel when I read a good book.
Uh-huh. Here's an odd question. When you're composing, or when you're thinking about your plot or writing your plot, do your characters talk to you,
Um,
or do they wait till
no,
you're on the page? Huh? Oh.
they don't talk to me, but they don't always listen to me. If I can. So let me explain. They don't talk to me. I am in control of them, but I'm when, like, and I won't give anything away, but with say Willa's romantic interests, or what was happening with her, I went into it with one idea, and that it just wasn't happening. And I was just like, well, and so I was like, okay, she's not listening to me. She's not liking the person that she ought to be liking here. And so I had to, work around it. And I really, I do think that's mostly because as you get right, you can plot, which I do, and I do a sketchy outline and a more detailed outline, and then I start to write. And then even as I'm starting to, as I'm writing, I'm getting to know the characters. It's almost like when you're friends with someone and you start to be friends with them and you have this idea about them. And then over the months and time, you get to know them more and more. And, their responses sometimes surprise you, or what you find out about them. And so that's how I am in my writing, where, I do know the backstories of my characters in general, but as I'm writing them, I get to know them a little bit better. And then they, surprise me, and you have to go with how naturally they would respond. And then of course, how Willow would respond too. And so, and because I know her the best. And so, that's how it goes. And so that's why, she doesn't always listen to me and they don't always listen, and it kind of goes their way and things always get changed, but you have to be able to be flexible and do that.
Yeah, flexibility seems to be the primary skill to kind of develop, to be able to say whether this is good or not so good, or you let the characters kind of determine what goes on, and then you have to just kind of readjust the plot to, keep them in place.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to, it won't feel realistic and relatable otherwise, if you're just forcing your characters to either say or do things that aren't in their character to do.
Yeah. Now, this is the first book in the series, Cheddar Off Dead, and in September is the next book coming out, Gone for Gouda.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Oh, Gone for Gouda. Great. That one is about, and that's actually my favorite one that I've written so far. It has our cast of characters that come back, and then it has a vegan celebrity cookbook author who she comes in and finds out, we come to find out that she's not vegan after all. And so and then she gets killed, and so there's a lot of wondering about that, about who all right, let me
That's quite all right. Over. Definitely don't want to go too far into that part.
No, obviously. I know, exactly. Yeah. And so actually Archie, since he was being her temporary assistant, he becomes kind of the number one suspect. And so Willa gets involved. They all get involved in order to save him, help him out. And then they have to solve the mystery.
And as I understand, this is this a 3-book series that you've been contracted for?
So far, yes. It's a 3-book series.
Okay. Well, and I certainly hope when you're working on number 3 right now, is that correct?
I've actually finished with number 3 already. Yes.
All right.
So we're hoping for a good announcement soon about possibly continuing the series. So we'll see. We'll see what St. Martin's has to say.
Absolutely. And it was just one more question, particularly about cheeses. Do you have a favorite?
I anticipated this question, and I have to say that my favorite always seems to be the next one that I eat. Because I enjoy them so much, and I enjoy a wide range. I really love trying new, funky, weird cheeses. And even if they're not something that I would choose again, I just really enjoy trying new ones too. So in fact, this last weekend I had a new cheese for my sister-in-law. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was kind of like brie, but it was better. And I was just, oh my gosh. But then she had the goat cheese, which I love, with fig jam. And so, there's always ones that I go back to that are like my comfort cheeses. Of course, cheddar, it's good with everything. But then the new ones that I try, I love too. So I couldn't possibly pick a favorite.
I do understand that since we started this Agatha Christie project, there is a cheese shop in Gap, Pennsylvania, an actual cheese shop run by this guy who's a little crotchety sort of, but in kind of a nice way. The first time, we came in and he started ragging on me a little, I was, like to say, tell him where he can stuff his cheese and go home. But my wife was there and we persevered, and he does some aging in the shop itself. He would get cheeses and do something in the cold storage whatever kind of magic he works. And we have had some very interesting ones. Particularly, there was a Pierre Robert. It was a triple cream brie, and
The
it
triple
was
creams are
amazing.
amazing.
Absolutely.
I haven't had that particular kind, but I have had the triple cream Andre something, and oh wow.
So yes, there are some other things as well. In the store, we found there was a little cube wrapped in red plastic, and it's Ski Queen is the brand name, and it's a caramel cheese. And it is, like I said, it's a cube shape, and that's what it was. It was difficult to slice, and it was almost like but it was definitely a caramel flavor, and it's brown cheese, and you think that's okay, and it really is good. But unlike you, I would, there are some that are just absolutely fabulous, and then the rest are all good. So
yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, well, that must be fun though, to be able to try so many different ones. I mean, I'm the only one. My son doesn't like cheese, and so it's just me, and so there's only so much cheese I can eat, and so I tend to maybe just get one, and then wait till I finish that one, and then get another. So I don't get to try as many as I'd like, but that must be fun to have all those new cheeses.
It is. My daughter will come in when I'm cutting for the cheese board for the movie, and she'll end up scarfing up some, or making a cheese sandwich for herself out of our expensive cheese. But she does, she helps around the house, so she earns her keep. Yeah. All right. So now like I said, Gone for Good will be out in September. And is there a title for the third one yet, or is that still far in the future?
The title is Curds of Prey.
Oops, I'm sorry. We missed.
We missed. You stopped. The title is Curds of Prey.
Curds of Prey.
Yes. I know.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. We see a lot of the pun titles, and some of them are like, okay, it's a pun title. That I like that one. Thank you very much, Korina, for stopping by and chatting us today. The book is Cheddar Off Dead, the first in the Cheese Shop Mystery series set in Sonoma Valley. And this is Bill Peschel for Mechanicsburg Mystery Presents, and I hope that your favorite mystery novel is the one you're reading right now. Thank you, Korina.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
You're welcome. And bye-bye. The Mechanicsburg Mystery Presents podcast is sponsored by the Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. The store is open with limited hours, plus we accept appointments and offer a drive-by service. The store will also ship books to your home, including those from the Peschel Press Mystery line, including our annotated editions of novels by Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers. To learn more, visit the store at www.mysterybooksonline.com. And thank you for listening.